So hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. Now I know it's only been 2 days since I last uploaded. Obviously I've not been sort of on here for ages, so I decided to make a video on Sunday about the departure of Ross Embleton and the replacement of Joby McAnuff on an interim basis. There'll be a link in the bio if you want to go and watch that video. And the overall feedback was great. You know, people were telling me that they wanted to see more content and more uploads. Obviously, like everybody else, I'm stuck at home, not being able to go to football, so we're watching the streams, and I thought, what can I do? Well, for me, I like to get into deeper, and I like to get into the analysis point of the game, so I thought I'd come on after the game and offer up my post-match thoughts. So, you know, some context: Grimsby Town, bottom of the league, bottom of the Football League. Joby McAnuff starting out his career as a manager. Quite a good game to go to. Although obviously coming towards the crunch time at the end of the season where teams do pick up some funny results down at the bottom, so it was a potential to be a very tricky fixture, but a game that you look at and you think, yeah, we should be winning. And as you can see on screen in a second, I will show you the lineup. As you can see from the lineup, there were changes that were very imminent, that were Joby's own ideas compared to what Ross Embleton's ideas were. Obviously, we saw Joe Willison come back into the side after a long period on the sidelines. Jamie Turley as well, who's always had a problem of staying fit, but he come on at the weekend against Tranmere and scored a goal. Maybe that ultimately was the decision in getting him back. He's a very sort of physical, no-nonsense centre-back, so quite a good game for him to be involved in. Wilkinson dropped to the bench was kind of the big one, really, along with Dan Happy, who have been two of our better players this season, but have both been on a bit of a decline in form. So the changes were understandable, and it was actually quite refreshing to see those changes, I felt, you know. And it's good to see that he's sort of putting his own stamp and own authority on the matchday squad, which is, you know, what you want to see ultimately as well. Joby did say in his pre-match interview that he wouldn't be coming in or naming himself on the matchday team sheet, and you know, fair enough. I think he wants to concentrate on just being a manager now. That's a good thing to do. He's obviously pushing 40 years old, and this time is the right time, and it's like he says for himself, is a big opportunity for himself to enter the game as a manager. So you can understand that, but obviously we do lose one of our most influential players on the pitch because of that. So, you know, there's big boots to fill. Craig Clay come back in tonight, the new captain, from what it appears. Obviously, McAnuff was the captain. He still, I suppose, is the captain because he's still registered as a player, but Clay's sort of been the one that's going to been given the armband while Joby's on the sideline. Although Joby has said that if he's needed, if there's injuries, suspensions, then he will obviously get himself involved because he is obviously registered. But my thoughts on the lineup, like I said, I thought it was a good lineup. I thought it. You could see that, like I say, it was his own stamp on the game, and that's obviously what you want. So it's a good lineup going into the game, and I suppose I'd say it filled me with more confidence, really, compared to how we've been playing in the last few weeks. So yeah, let's get into the game. Now, the starting point in the game, for those that watched, was obviously Adam Thompson, who suffered a nasty head collision inside the first minute, actually, and that's never nice to see. The state of the player, you know, there was a lot of blood, and he went off sort of limping as well. Stretcher come on, he didn't want the stretcher, although he had to be carried off by our medical staff. So, you know, it's not nice to see that after 1 minute as well. It was, you know, it's harder because it breaks the momentum up, and it's harder to then get yourself going again, so it might take a bit longer. But I thought we started off well. Dan Happy come on for him. And hopefully Thompson will have a speedy recovery and will be back involved very soon. So we wish him well, obviously. But I thought we started off well, actually, to be fair, like that. Like I say, normally it can take a bit of time to get going. It took 5 minutes or so, but, you know, we actually kind of posed ourselves on the game very quickly. We got at them, like Joby said in the pre-match interview, and we looked very dangerous. And we looked, I suppose, from sort of the 10th, 15 minute onwards that if the goal was going to come in the first half, that it would be us that would score it. They didn't really oppose any threat to us. We had a flurry of corners, and in the end, we've ended up stabbing one home through Dan Happy, who's obviously just come on the pitch. So it was nice to go 1-0 up and early on in the game, because that's been our problem of late. We haven't been able to score goals, and we've really struggled doing that. And actually, when you look at the lineup tonight, you look at it and you say, yeah, it's only really Johnson that scores goals, and he's come back from injury. He's not been firing. He's still sort of, I suppose, when you come back from an injury, you've not got that confidence and the momentum that you once had. So there was a lot of pressure, I suppose, on him to score the goals, because you look at the list of players, there's no goal scorer in the team, really. Kemp, we're still not sort of sure of what kind of player he is. Maybe you look at him as a goal threat, but Wilkinson wasn't on the pitch. And other than Johnson, our main goal threat is obviously Wilkinson. So, there's pressure on Johnson. And so it was nice to go 1-0 early on. And from there on, we looked the more lively again. We sort of tried to push for the second goal, and we were sort of all over Grimsby like a rash, really. And I thought, in my humble opinion, as I tried to be, they looked like a bottom of the table side for a reason. Sometimes you play these sides at this sort of stage in the season, you think, well, they look better than a bottom of the table team. But in the first half, Grimsby really sort of, you could see why they were struggling. You could see why they were down there from the way they set up. And at home, I suppose when you look at our form as well, we've not come in good form at all. And if I was one of their supporters, I'd be a bit annoyed that we didn't try and oppose, ourselves on the game, rather than, Orient doing that. So it's obviously nice to get in front, and from that point, we tried to go for the second goal. And there was one sort of near the end of the first half of Kemp where he hit the bar. He should have kept the shot low. Sort of not really, I suppose, an excuse there, because he's in acres of space, and all he's got to do is keep it low, and he sort of leans back and it hits the bar. So you go into the break at half time at 1-0, obviously happy, but in a way you kind of think, or I thought, 1-0 is still a dodgy lead. Okay, they're not playing that well, but it's football. When you're 1-0, anything can happen. They don't have to be playing that well to get back in the game. They can come out different in the second half, and to be fair to them, they did. It didn't take long before they made some changes and changed up the formation, which massively helped them. And they sort of, like I said about in the first half, we have imposed ourselves on the game. They done that to us in the second half, and obviously they needed to. They're fighting for their survival, and they have to do that. And they made a couple of changes. Hansen and Leonard John Lewis come on, so two strikers come on, and I know one of the defenders went off. So they obviously were trying to go for the game, and that was quite early in there as well. It's not like they'd thrown them on in the last 10 minutes to see what they could come up with. They did think that they could try and get in behind us and get in the game quickly. So, fair play to them for that. And it did work, because I really was frustrated in the second half. It was almost a complete contrast to the first half, although we did start off better in the second half. Again, and that's obviously what prompted them to make the change. Another opportunity for Kemp where he's hit the bar again. Not as clear cut as the first half, but still a chance that, you should put that in the back of the net, and he knows that. Everybody else will know that as well. So then you're thinking, please just don't be one of them nights where we do everything but get the second goal and then we're punished. And it was looking like that, to be fair. The one criticism I have of us, it wasn't very free-flowing in the second half, and the passes, there wasn't many passes that sort of went to feet, and they were all sort of all over the place and sort of almost not hoofed up, but they were kind of in the air. I mean, the pitch, to be fair, was awful. Very dry, very sandy, and considering it's March, you wouldn't really think that. So the bobble on it was ridiculous. Although I have been reliably informed that Grimsby haven't paid their ground staff for some time, so they're kind of using volunteers to do it. And obviously, if that is the case, you can't really say much. But yeah, the pitch didn't help the way we played, and I thought it was sort of to their advantage, really, because you could see from minute one that they weren't really sort of going to play football as such. They kind of wanted to play hoofball, and I don't mean that in a disrespect to them. They wanted to play hoofball. They wanted to sort of come at us, be physical, sort of bully us, and our kind of football is on the ground. So actually that pitch is kind of used to their advantage, although they might not want that pitch themselves, but they have to adapt to it, and obviously that is their home ground, so they will adapt to that pitch better than anybody else. But yeah, I think the pitch didn't help us, although that is not an excuse. In the second half, like I say, we didn't look as lively in the first half, and Yeah, I suppose we looked as if we were going to try and defend a 1-0 lead, and I don't like that. For me, that's not the way to play football. That's not the way to play, especially against the bottom of the table side. The only thing is there, yeah, you're away from home, so anything you take. And then they had a couple of opportunities, started getting some balls in the air into the box, and they looked a bit dangerous. And I was starting to think there's going to be more pressure coming on, and it's only 1-0 and we don't look like scoring. So I thought this could end up going and being a draw. But they had one clear chance, and that was Leonard John Lewis when he strikes against the post. I think Vigouroux was probably well beaten. And that's probably sort of in the 70th minute. And so from that point onwards, the game just fizzled out, really. They didn't really do anything much other than that. We didn't really do anything much other than that. And it just sort of played out. And we, in the end, come away with 3 points and a 1-0 win. And that's obviously, it's good. It's a good foundation to build on. But will I sit here and sort of say in front of the camera that it was great? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that we played fantastic. I think, yeah, it's definitely a foundation to build on. But I think you can't really judge until Saturday, and that'll be a real test, really. Exeter away, very good side, obviously. And I think that's the real time to sort of assess and judge Joby and the tactics and the way that he's going to move us forward. But it's a good foundation. Obviously, anything other than a win tonight would have been a very, very poor result. So it's good to come away with a clean sheet and the 3 points. And that was just a given. But the performance could have been a bit better, but we will take it. But now we'll get on to some player ratings. But I'll talk to you a little bit through why I've given them those ratings. And Vigouroux will start with a 6. Clean sheet, obviously the main thing. But there was a lot of times, I counted 4 times, where he'd just kick the ball out of play. A lot of people rave about his distribution. I'm not so sure. He wasn't really tested that much, to be honest with you. So clean sheet. Great. I'd normally give him a 7. I'd just mark him down 1 because of the goal kicks and being out of play quite a lot. Joe Willison come back into the side, very solid, very good. Can't complain, can't say anything really to fault his performances, and that's why he's got a 7. Dan Happy, he comes on, and sometimes it's hard to come on into a game when you're not starting because you're mentally not as prepared as your other teammates who knew they were going to start. So for him to come in and slot in nicely. Again, sometimes he looks a bit dodgy. He looks like one of those defenders that maybe have a mistake in him. But we weren't costed tonight by anything. And ultimately, he's actually the match winner and won us the game. So, I'll give him a solid 7. Jamie Turley, another one to come back into the team after actually being away for months, really. So to come back in, and he was solid. I think as a defensive performance, I say he's probably the best one out of the back line. He was very, very solid, and considering he hasn't played for months is, obviously a credit to himself. So that's why he's been given 7. Akinola, 6. He's played at right back. I actually thought Akinola was extremely solid until about sort of on the hour mark, and then they were starting to get in behind a little bit on his side. So yeah, that's why I've marked him down. Otherwise, I actually at one point probably would have had him as my man of the match. But obviously, he's actually naturally a centre back. He's playing at right back. And he's done a good job. He actually looked decent going forward as well. The pitch didn't help him. But yeah, solid job. So that's why he's got a 6. Craig Clay, captain, another 6. He was just a bit quieter tonight, and obviously that's understandable. He's come back from an injury that's kept him out for a while. And you didn't notice him as much. Normally he'd be flying in with the tackles. He did battle. It's not that he didn't battle. Of course he did. That's Clay's game. But he wasn't, outstanding like he normally always is. So that's why he's got a 6. Cisse, 6. Maybe I could be a bit harsh on this one because Cisse, to be fair to him, he won a lot in the air, an awful lot in the air, which helped us in a physical game like this one. But he was one of the players where I talk about with the passing, not going to feet and sort of handing them the ball, really. He was sort of the main player that does that. His passing range is not very good and not a strong point to his game, and that's why I've marked him down to a 6. Nick Freeman, a 6. And now a lot of people actually sort of, I suppose they kind of have a lot of negative things to say about him from what I've seen on Twitter, and I don't understand why. I like him, he's positive, he drives forward, his decision making is very dodgy, and I think that's probably why he's actually not playing in the Championship with Wycombe, because if his decision making was a little bit better, the passes at the right times, maybe shooting at the right time and not getting in the way of other people like he did with Brophy tonight, with a lack of communication. I actually like him. He drives forward, he's positive, he's good energy in the midfield, and you need a player like that, especially alongside Clay and Cisse, who aren't those players, to drive forward. He is. So I'd give him a 6. Not outstanding, but by all means not poor. Now James Brophy, number 6. Or number 6? I'm rating of a 6. This is where people might disagree. This is the dodgy one now. Well, what we're going to say, because he's been playing at left back all season, and now I could see, and like a lot of other people also, that he is not a left back. He's our best attacking outlet. He's the quickest player in the team, and he's got to be used higher up the pitch. He has to be used higher up the pitch because he's so much more effective. And that showed tonight, especially sort of in the first hour of the game. The amount of times he got in behind that defence and drove into the box, his final cross isn't great, but just getting in behind, you know, and in the National League you want a lot of penalties like that. So he's positive, very, very positive player up the top end of the pitch, and he can cause a lot more damage there, and that's why I've given Brophy a 6, just because in the end he hasn't come up with an assist or a goal and hasn't had an amazing chance, but you know, he looks a lot better there, and that's where we need him to be. Dan Kemp, I've given him a 6 as well. He's hit the bar twice. You know, if he scores them goals, he's man of the match. But for me, I'm not sold on him yet. I'm not, I'll be honest. He looks a little bit lightweight. I think, you know, he's a good technical player, and I'm not sure whether he's a winger, because he's not extremely fast. He's got a bit of pace, but I like the idea of maybe sort of, I suppose you have to switch up the formation, and it's where do you fit these people, like players in. But I like the idea of him playing sort of as a number 9 in behind the striker, because I think he's good at driving on through the middle, and he's quite tricky, skillful, and he's positive as well. Like Freeman, both of them could play there, I suppose. I don't know. He just seemed his end product was not there tonight, and if it was, then we'd have won the game by 2 or 3 goals, and he'd have had 2 or 3 goals as well, probably. And Johnson, finally, we're going to give him a 5, the lowest rating. And this is nothing personal. I'm a massive fan of Danny Johnson, but he's not looked the same player since coming back from injury. That is understandable. He still needs time, and he needs a goal desperately to get his confidence and momentum back into where it was before the injury. Just almost sort of non-existent tonight. He works hard, and obviously can't ask for any more than that. And when you're playing up top on your own as a striker, it is difficult because you've got to chase everything down. You've got to work your socks off. And he does that. So credit to him for that. But in terms of in front of goal, not really anything. I think he had 1 shot on target, and there was one that sort of come across the 6-yard box, and he missed completely. And in the end, the flag was up. But either way, he still didn't get the ball and connect with the ball, which would have been an easy chance. So yeah, that's why I've given him 5. Nothing personal. We just need to find the form, and you know, he'll start scoring the goals again, and we'll start climbing up the table more. But yeah, that is the end of this video. If you'd quite like to see this continue, then let me know. Like I say, the comments have been really nice lately, and I appreciate all of those, and I always try to reply to all of those. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll do this after the Exeter game. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. I'll leave the link in my bio for that. Yeah, up the O's.